Mike, hey, this is Jack Fire here to discuss a few things that are going on today. Basically, we're going to talk about, I want to talk about the situation over there in Russia, Ukraine, Crimea, and the United States, and about war. So basically, right now, uh, there's a temporary government in Ukraine because the democratically elected president was ousted because of his decision to choose uh, to have closer ties with Russia instead of choosing closer ties to the EU. And he won the. Many say that he won the election because he chose to have closer ties uh, to the EU. And then when it was time to cash that check, he switched up and stayed with Russia, made closer ties with Russia. And protesters came out, and then eventually he skipped town, uh, fled to Russia, I believe. Now, um, during this time, Crimea uh, took a vote on whether to secede from Ukraine, and it was voted that they would. So Crimea is no longer part of the Ukraine, and it is heading towards uh, Russian control. Now, uh, the United States is saying that it doesn't recognize, uh, it recognizes what it want to recognize and doesn't recognize what it doesn't recognize. It doesn't want to recognize. It's like, you know, you looking at a person, and you choose to look at, no matter how good or how bad this person looks, you choose to look at, maybe this you want to like this person because they have blue glasses and green socks, but you're ignoring, the hideous face and the ugly smell coming from this person. That's basically what is happening. At least that's what the media is, uh, how the media is covering the situation. At least the American media. And I would like to take a step back to discuss war. War has been going on basically since the beginning of time, and my belief, the only way uh, to prevent war is just to take a step back and understand what it is to begin with. To simplify what war is, let's talk about a neighbor, you and your neighbor. Let's say that you have a neighbor that you don't like for whatever reason. Maybe they uh, have a different religion than you. Maybe they make more money than you. Maybe you don't like the way that they treat their kids, or whatever. Uh, Most likely you would not uh, fist fight this neighbor. Is that right? It'll be highly unlikely for you to just say, "Hey, I don't like your religion. I'm gonna fight you." That's highly unlikely, right? Okay. However, would you, let's say you saw somebody, some knucklehead walking down the street, and you you might you might be a smart person, and you might be able to assume or calculate that you can persuade this knucklehead that's walking down the street minding his own business to fight your neighbor, you know. Or before we get to that, you might have your dog go shit in a neighbor's yard. You might um, call the cops on your neighbor. All of these are, those actions are on a small scale, are kind of forms of war. Uh, So let's say you see this knucklehead walking down the street, and you and your neighbor are going at it. You don't like your neighbor. You don't like what they're doing. So you tell this knucklehead, you persuade him or her to not like your neighbor as well. Or that's one way to get that knucklehead to go fight your neighbor for you or go do harm to your neighbor. Another way is you can just go and pay your neighbor to fight your battle. And basically, that's what war is. On a larger scale, you basically have a nation or a group who is persuaded either financially or uh, you know having beliefs instilled in them to go fight and kill on behalf of that nation. So that is what war is on a small scale and on a large scale. Because I believe that if every man had to fight his own war, there would be a lot less wars. Because man versus man, hand to hand, or mind to mind, um, it will cause a lot of harm. War is very dangerous. And most men who send other people to war, they don't want to risk their own lives. Typically, there have been situations where that person did actually risk their lives who sent other people to do the war, and that's noble. However, in today's time, that's very rare. So this is episode one of what's going on with the Ukraine and war in general. And next on the next video, we're going to talk about financial and go a little bit in depth about what this means. Okay.